Now, can they operate on a lower level in built-up areas? The answer is yes. But that doesn't make that any more dangerous to us than other parts of the world where Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and other entities are operating too. So I don't think that that particular threat is huge. I think that the Taliban are going to struggle to control the country because they're the Taliban. At the end of the day, they have some severe limitations. They don't have a tremendous amount of imagination or breadth of intellect or any of those things. And I think they're going to run into this changed Afghan society on the one hand, a harder line from the international community, and internal, as you guys well know, the internal groups in the north and whatnot are not natural allies of the Taliban, the former Northern Alliance elements. So as soon as they get an opportunity, they'll become a challenge for them.
Yeah. You think any chance the North and South just split or some fracture of the country? I mean, to be honest, from my experience, I'm not sure the Northern Alliance is capable of running a government either, frankly. I mean, you know, it's 2021. We judge things based on how we live our American lives every day, but that's just not how it is in a lot of places of the world. And they still seem to function more or less without some of the utilities we do. So I'm not saying they couldn't do it, but it seems unlikely that either one of these groups is capable of doing that.
They will both struggle. I don't think they'll formally split. Like you say, I'm not sure they could formally form two real countries there. You know, I used to be struck by in Mogadishu, remember there was no government at all. Yeah. There were still cell phones. Yeah. There were still hotels. You know, how does that work?
It's wild. Yeah, that's a weird place. Jane Goodall should go there and do this is what ultimate quote unquote libertarianism looks like. You can do whatever you want. What was the name of the city that Wyatt Earp was in
Tombstone?
Oh, that's the name of the city, Tombstone? Yeah, it's like Tombstone, but modern day. Like it's the Wild West there. It's crazy as shit. Yeah. But I can't imagine that Afghanistan's gonna turn into that. I mean, people have been working. That's one of the other things we talked about, not just the access to education and stuff like that, but regular employment and the idea that workers have rights, like that there's a schedule that you only work X amount of days, that you get paid this amount for this kind of work. That is now kind of embedded into the infrastructure of that country. And that's it will find, so maybe they're in like the early 19th century, like America before the labor movement, shit like that. Now, obviously it's a lot more complicated, but it wasn't like America wasn't violent in the early 19th century. You know what I mean? We were fucking up each other quite a bit, as a matter of fact. So who do you think are best? I think Jordan is probably one of our better allies in the Middle East. Their intelligence community is very, very good. They seem to not fuck us over too much as compared to some of the other ones. And I would like to hear your thoughts on our allies in that region and maybe some thoughts on what the region's going to evolve into over the next couple of years as things, you know, kind of, look, we've shaken up the snow globe now, and now the snow's got to resettle. So let's see where it goes, right? I just want to know what you think is going to happen there.
That's great question. You're right. I think we shook it up for sure. I think we got outcomes we didn't really expect. We pulled the Keystone out when we took out Saddam Hussein. And he wasn't a good guy, but it was that balancing act between Iran's power and then the Sunni side. So my feeling is countries like the UAE and Saudi Arabia, which have traditionally been allied with us because it was in their interests,
right,
are still going to be allied with us, but less fervently. They are going to try to recalculate what's life with a less reliable American partner. And I don't think they'll partner with the Chinese, but they'll be looking to have a balance against Iran because Iran is going to be a regional power. It already is, and it will continue to be a regional power because historically that just tells you. Plus, they're very aggressive. So my sense is you're going to end up with this increasingly bipolar Shia-dominated Iran on one side, and then the Sunnis probably led by Saudi Arabia, although traditionally Egypt is the 800-pound gorilla. They've just been going through trouble. But I think that the Sunni part of the Mideast has got to regularize itself. They've got to get aligned again. They've got order in Egypt, but Egypt's got to get on a level move. Jordan is a good partner to us, but they're not powerful in the region. Right. They're not otherwise relevant. So you really need Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and to a degree UAE to do that. The challenge.
What are your thoughts on how to do that? I mean, get them involved in some kind of business or something. I mean, what do you do there? Like, because look, if you go down to the very base level to Maslow, you can see what this hierarchy of needs. But you also add in, we all know that the devil are idle hands or the devil's whatever the fuck, right? I mean, people need shit to do. Otherwise, they sit around and bitch and go stand in traffic and protest and shit. People need things to do, and one of the huge issues with the Iraq War, right, was we got there and just told all the Iraqi army guys to go home. You know, that was a huge mistake. So what do you think is the solution to that with a country like Egypt? Because it's got to be Egypt. It can't be Saudi Arabia. There's too much history there. It's got to be Egypt because of geographically where they're located.
Yeah. Well, Americans hate this, what I'm about to say, but the reality is we've got to help their societies build themselves up. Areas of instability work against us. We are best postured in the world when you have countries that have employment, have opportunity. One of the big recruiting tools for al-Qaeda in Iraq was that group of young Arab men, Islamic men who had no opportunity politically, economically, socially. They couldn't get married because they didn't make enough money. And so they're living in fairly repressive political regimes in many cases in North Africa and other countries. So you create this boiling pot with a top on it, and the steam's going to build up. So we have got to continue to lean forward to try to get those autocratic regimes to improve their behavior so that they get their populations in a better sense.
Do you think that strategy has worked in Saudi Arabia as we've continued to do business with them? I mean, I haven't looked at the data recently, but the last time I did, about 80% of their primary education schools were still madrasas. I mean, that's still a big problem, right? And but some things have happened. Actually, Uber, because the Saudi royal family owns part of it, pressured Saudi Arabia into allowing women to drive. And I know that seems stupid, but in September 2019, they finally had to, in the first time in their history, allow women to drive because they wanted to make money. Money is a good incentive for people. And it does seem like, here's the way I would frame the question, because I understand why people don't like what you just said, but I agree with you. Here's the way I would frame the response to that. Would you rather spend some money with some less than ethical people and do whatever you can to improve the lives of the people now, but also into the future, and give them a reason to stop their bullshit? Or do you want to send our sons and daughters to go fight these motherfuckers? Because it's going to be one of those two things eventually. On a long enough timeline, over a 20 to 40 year timeline, one of those two will happen. So what do you want to do?
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. I think Saudi Arabia is one of the countries over there that absolutely understands it. Mohammed bin Salman's a clever young man. Mm-hmm. He's a little bit hard-edged, as you've seen how he's arrested some of his competitors and cut up one of his detractors. But the reality is he knows they've got to move that population along and get them jobs and have them actively engaged in their own society. They can't just keep everybody on the dole with oil because it's too brittle.
Right.
And so I think that they will move. The question is, do they have an upset before then? I can't predict that.